The member for Niagara West Glenbrook.
Speaker, I move that, in the opinion of this House, the government should place a moratorium on the installation of industrial wind turbines in unwilling host communities in the province of Ontario.
Mr. Usarov has moved private member notice motion number 45. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When the residents of my riding drive down Port Davidson Road in West Lincoln, Highway 20 or 16 Road, among many others, they see a once pristine landscape marred by industrial wind turbines that they never wanted. Speaker, today I am simply calling on the government to respect local decision-makers and residents by discontinuing the practice of placing industrial wind turbines in unwilling host communities. And there are many on that list of unwilling host communities. At least 90 townships and counties have passed specific resolutions saying they are not willing hosts. Among the non-willing hosts are the townships of Wainfleet and West Lincoln in the Niagara region. They have been consistent in reflecting the input they received from residents opposing the industrial wind turbines that now blanket much of the landscape. Niagara Regional Council has also backed their resolution. Among the regional councillors who supported the resolutions is the Mayor of Wainfleet, April Jeffs, who will be in the legislature this afternoon and is the Ontario Progressive candidate for the riding of Niagara Centre in the 2018 general election. Mr. Speaker, this government constantly talks about having conversations. Unfortunately, it turns out that these are one-way conversations, since this government doesn't really want to listen. The Liberal government has a long history of ignoring municipalities and local residents. It forced turbines on municipalities across rural Ontario against the wishes and concerns of the communities. Energy prices are going through the roof. We talk about that nearly every day in this legislature. Ontario families and business owners are shocked every month when they see their electricity bill. No pun intended, because this is a serious matter. Hydro bills have skyrocketed by over 300% since this government took power. Industrial wind turbines are one of the reasons people are facing a choice between heating and eating. Expensive and counterproductive power subsidies for turbines we don't want or need have contributed to the soaring hydro prices that are among the greatest burden the people of Ontario have to face. Whether they are spending billions of dollars to stretch out future debt payments or handing out rich subsidies to industrial wind turbine operators, this government will always stick Ontarians with the bill. And I'm not just tilting at windmills like Don Quixote, but a comparison is in order. Cervantes, in his famous novel, wrote about a dreamer of no substance who could not perceive reality. Sounds a lot like the Liberals and their hydro plan. This government's scheme does nothing to address the root cause of the Ontario energy affordability crisis, the Liberals' Green Energy Act. We call it the Bad Contract Act because it was designed to benefit Liberal corporate donors and locks taxpayers into a 20-year contract for overpriced wind and solar power. It's also for energy we don't need. Since 2009, Ontario has given away $6 billion in surplus energy to U.S. states. States that have lower energy costs than our province, than Ontario, are getting electricity from us at discount prices. Yep. We're giving businesses across the border a competitive edge over our own Ontario businesses. Truly, Premier Wynne is the best Minister of Economic Development the United States has ever had. Speaker, I'd like to remind everyone that although the NDP also like to complain about high hydro costs and say that they too are on the side of local communities, they were complicit in setting the stage for industrial turbines being forced down the throats of rural municipalities across Ontario. The NDP joined the Liberals to pass the Bad Contracts Act that enabled the government to sign contracts with big hydro companies that aren't transparent and can't be examined. Municipal governments also say their planning authority was eliminated by this provincial legislation. I have no way of confirming the NDP's motivation, but I have a hunch. Unfortunately, I believe they fell for the Liberals' Orwellian doublespeak. By calling the legislation the Green Energy Act, the Liberals hoped everyone would fail to see what it really did. I also suspect they used this misleading title so they could attempt to label anyone voting against it as being against green energy. That is absurd. Progressive Conservatives believe in the importance of protecting the environment and doing so responsibly. But we can do that without bankrupting Ontario. The Liberals seem to forget Ontario already has a green energy source that they're wasting: hydroelectric. In 2015, the Liberals spilled or abandoned 3 billion kilowatt-hours of energy from water power facilities that Ontario bought and paid for decades ago. There may be no use in crying over spilt milk, but spilling that much energy gives Ontarians good cause to cry when they open their energy bill. Ontario has an energy affordability crisis because the government arrogantly refuses to acknowledge Ontarians' concerns for years and refuses to cease with its reckless schemes. Today, we can take the first step in rectifying this situation by stopping the practice of forcing industrial wind turbines on unwilling communities. Liberal and NDP members who supported the legislation that led to this disaster, they can make amends and show respect for our communities by voting for this motion. This is an opportune time to remind the Liberals of your government's first throne speech under Premier Wynne. Now, Premier Wynne in her first throne speech committed to the following, and I quote, this is from the Premier of Ontario, the current Premier: "Your government intends to work with municipalities on other issues too, because communities must be involved and connected to one another. They must have a voice in their future and a say in their integrated regional development, so that local populations involved from the beginning, if there's going to be a gas plant or a casino or a wind plant or a quarry in their hometown. Because our economy can benefit from these things, but only if we have willing hosts. Any reasonable person would assume that this means the government would give communities a voice and respond to their concerns. Unfortunately, that's just not the reality. 4 years after these words were read out, we're still waiting. This past December, I attended a meeting in Smithville, my riding, by the West Lincoln Glanbrook Wind Action Group. There were more than 50 people on a Thursday evening who came out to share their concerns about the blight of unwanted industrial wind turbines in our community. The government members may not have paid attention to the many petitions PC MPPs have submitted regarding this issue, nor seemingly have they paid attention to their own communities. The 90 unwilling communities are in several of your ridings as well. My honourable colleagues from Huron-Bruce and Simcoe Grey brought multiple motions to this Assembly asking for a moratorium and respect for local decision-making, but they were voted down, and the concerns were ignored. So, since I have your attention today, I would like to give you a sample of what people are saying. Residents in close proximity to turbine locations express concern about the impact on their health, the local environment, declining property values, and of course, the lack of local decision-making on industrial wind turbine projects. They can't fathom, along with many other Ontarians, why this government is paying unaffordable subsidies for these projects for as long as 20 years, after which we'll only be faced with disposal problems to protect the environment as they wear out or are decommissioned. The grassroots organization Mothers Against Wind Turbines sent me an eloquent letter that aptly describes how concerned and, yes, even scared people are about the impact of these turbines. Speaker, allow me to quote portions of the letter. Harm from operating wind turbines continues to strike vulnerable individuals and families within the most personal and intimate of all spaces, that being our homes. Health is defined as not just the absence of disease and illness, but encompasses a state of well-being. Wind-powered electrical generation facilities persistently are creating reports and case histories of residents reporting sleep disturbances, vertigo, tinnitus, and other negative health symptoms. Some families are leaving their homes for extended periods of time for relief. Every day, new cases are becoming public, where homes are abandoned following the commission of wind projects. The economics of power generation means that an increasing number of people are unable to pay their electricity bills. This is also part of the harm from wind power. Ontario's current energy policies contribute to soaring electricity rates, which affect all ratepayers of our province. Energy poverty and household impoverishment are direct adverse health impacts arising from the monetary burden of the implementation of the Green Energy Act, enacted in 2009, end quote. There's one particular sentence from this letter that I ask all MPPs here today to consider before voting on my motion. Consent to govern does not give political representatives the authority to harm another without impunity or restrictions. That is exactly what this government's industrial wind turbine scheme has accomplished. Whether it's by forcing people into energy poverty or compromising their enjoyment of life, life has become harder under the Ontario Liberals.
Sure has.
So I ask all members today to take a step towards showing respect for our communities and relief on our hydro bills. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Energy has acknowledged that this government has made mistakes with the energy file. The Premier has acknowledged that there are serious issues on the energy file that her government is going to be working on. Yet they don't seem willing to address the fundamental reasons behind these mistakes. Today, I'm giving them a chance, and I hope they'll take up the chance that this government can make remedy. If they're actually sorry, they will vote for this motion. If the Liberal government is actually willing to listen to rural residents, to listen to municipalities, and to follow up with the words of their throne speech, I hope their caucus will vote in favour of my motion.
Today.
Madam Speaker, as always, it is an honour to be able to rise in the legislature, to represent the fine residents of Niagara West Glanbrook, and to bring their concerns forward. This was a concern I've heard every step of the way and almost every day since I've been elected. I'm very pleased to put my name to this motion, to bring it before the House for consideration, and I hope that members on all sides of the aisle will consider it in the best interest of not only their constituents but all Ontario to support it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.